Hello, I am Stamford Chidge. This is the Chelsea Football Fancast. This is the lovely Sophie Rose.
Hello, everyone.
And I'm Stamford Chidge, and I'm very lucky because I get to sit next to her every week. It should not be allowed.
I'm so lucky. You're really good looking.
Oh, for goodness sake, Sophie. You'll make me blush. You will make me blush. And you'll make them laugh. What's the point? Because they are Charlie Skillen.
Hello.
Charlie Skillen from the Mail, the lovely Dr Mart. Dr Mart, oh, you can see my hand there, there you go. Dr Mart. Dr Mart is a Werther's original. He was an original founding member of the Chelsea Fancast, all nearly 7 years ago.
God, was it that long?
When we first did those podcasts, Felipe didn't have a beard.
That is long.
You're
right. How long ago it was?
He hasn't had a shave since. So we've got Felipe from Brazil, we've got the lovely Dan Silver with us tonight. And I'm already feeling slightly better than I did thanks to that blooming Bradford game. I'm actually beginning to smile again.
It's always been therapeutic doing this after a terrible result.
Actually, to be fair, I didn't get the right raving hump at all because, I got to the bar in the Rose and I was just about to get a pint, which I really needed, and LBC phoned me up to do an interview. So I did an interview with them and I had to get my head together to not rant or say anything naughty, and I managed to do that.
I did get the hump. I got the well hump.
But
that's why I went home. And I did chores.
You shouldn't have done. That's my point. I basically went into the pub and got absolutely battered with some lovely people. Jason Cundy turned up. Mr. CFC Away was there. Blue Baby, Teresa was there. Nilesy was there. Millhaven Curse, John Fleming. Felipe was there, and basically I got absolutely battered.
So that's how you deal with adversity?
Yeah, that's how I deal with defeat. You know? When the going gets tough, the tough get drunk, in this case. Anyway, Sophie, should we carry on with the football?
Let's.
We could talk about Sophie's dream. Should we save that for later?
I had a good dream last evening, yes.
Sadly, it didn't involve me.
So,
I'm just trying to think when
we can do a little contest here. We can get people to...
actually, great idea.
To message us in on Mixler or whatever, to guess what Sophie's dream was about.
Okay.
Yes, guess what my dream was about, and then later on in Sophie's Choice, at the very start of the chapter of my my section, is that even a word?
Your slot.
Yes, the start of my
segment.
slot. Yes, at the start of my segment, I shall then reveal what my dream was last night, and I was very, very, very disappointed when I woke up and realised it wasn't real.
Okay, so anyway, write in to tell us what you think Sophie's dream was about and who it involved, and we may reveal the truth later, or I may just lie and make it up.
No.
I'd back that one, to be honest.
Should we talk about some football, Soph?
Let's talk about some football.
So anyway, my point of order is that, as I alluded to a minute ago, I mean, he basically, picked the B team. But the bottom line is, guys, the B team should have been good enough to beat Bradford City from the 3rd division in old money.
Yes.
The 3rd division, Charlie!
Any 11 people picked by Chelsea Football Club should be, shouldn't it?
They're all international players.
Yeah, it was pathetic, really, and I think it shows quite a little confidence Mourinho's got in anyone beyond his first 11 or 12.
I want to get into that later on with the whole squad depth thing, because I think you've got a point there, and it answers a few questions that I'd like to get into later. But I mean, it's very interesting, isn't it, actually, before these matches, that you get a lot of supporters going on saying, oh, you've got to pick the youth, it's only the cup, it's only Bradford, oh, you've got to pick the youth, But it's an interesting thing, because he picked Christensen and Zuma, but none of the other kids. He didn't put Aki on, or Loftus-Cheek, I think, was on the bench. He didn't put them on. There's two schools of thought here. I wonder if he'd have picked more youth, if they'd have done a better job, actually, because they might have been more up for it, and less... I don't know, mentally free, I think is
if he'd picked the whole under-21 team, they probably would have done better than that.
But you know what I mean? What I'm saying is that because he so obviously had picked the B team, he picked every player that he clearly doesn't like or trust or have any faith in, or just doesn't consider good enough for the first team. And they knew it. And they played like it. They played with no confidence. They didn't play like they believed that the manager had faith in them.
I think the problem was, it was almost a full B team that he put out.
It was, wasn't it?
If he'd just changed 4 or 5 players, they would still have had the cohesion that they regularly have and the leadership. That's what they lacked.
And he's done that for most of the season, actually. He's mixed it up a bit more.
Not much. Don't forget that most of the Premiership games, for example, he's stuck to the same 12 or 13 players. So these lot have been sitting on the bench or even not in the squad, don't forget. They haven't played much.
I mean, he did comment after the match, I think, he said that he'd pretty much done the same for the Watford game. But I think, Dan, can you remember for me?
Yeah.
I seem to remember that. I think the team was stronger for the Watford game.
Watford?
No, we beat them 4-0, Smart.
Watford,
you clearly don't remember.
Yeah. Watford, I think
it was really close for about.
Well, no, it was
an
15
hour
minutes.
and a quarter.
Yeah, no, mate, we were all over him.
At the end, we were.
I was so comfortable during that match. I spent most of it talking to Dan, not actually watching. So
I mean, to be honest, starting Christensen in a home game is pretty advanced for Mourinho in terms of youth. I think the problem was he got absolutely no protection. I think playing even more youth players and looking to supposed senior players like Cahill, Mikel and Ramirez to jolly them along and kind of protect them, which clearly didn't happen in Christensen's case. I mean, Christensen, possibly through no fault of his own, ended up having quite a poor game.
He did.
But he's... But I think in that situation when, if we bring a youth defender in or something, he'll have Terry to tell him exactly what to do. As a senior player... As the senior player in the defence, Cahill should have stepped up really, and I think it's easy to make Cahill a scapegoat. And I don't like making him a scapegoat for the hell of it because he has been a really good servant to Chelsea. But as the senior member of that defence, he should have stepped up, organised Zuma and Christensen in particular. There was none of that. Zuma ended up having a terrible game.
And if he hadn't, Peter Cech should have done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Quite.
What do you think, Soph? What's your view on this? I mean, would we be better off just playing the kids rather than playing, what was obviously the dirt track as the B team, the ones that Mourinho doesn't fancy?
Well, I think Mourinho was trying to put across a message because I think, at the start, I was watching Sky News and everything and seeing what they thought and everything. And, when some players expect that they're going to win, so they don't play as well. I felt like it was even further than that. They just thought, there's no way we're going to lose this. And that was the main problem there. And secondly, Mourinho has spent the last year building a team. He's finally got his set team, but actually, we've got international players on the bench who should be able to. They should have been able to win that game comfortably.
Well, hang on a minute, Soph. The 11 that he fielded. I mean, Zuma and Christensen are actually under 21 internationals. Yeah. Every player was an international, and 4 of that team have won the Champions League with Chelsea.
Well, exactly, and I think. I mean, I don't honestly know when I watched the highlights. I didn't even go to looking at the midfield or the up front because the defence was just so bad. And when you do have Cech and Cahill in there, and I don't necessarily hate Cahill at all. You need to be able to. He should be setting an example and showing the players how to play. And to be honest, if anything, I was looking at him more than anyone else, thinking, "What are you doing?" So it was just a case of we just did not perform to our standard, and it's a shame really because we're not going to win trophies if we play like that.
But Cahill's not that kind of personality, is he?
Well, here's the thing, Smart. I'm really worried about Cahill was getting a right old coating. Dear old Rory, your mate Rory. Yeah. Your mate Rory. Yeah. Everybody's mate Rory. We're all mates with Rory.
Hi,
we love
Rory.
Actually, no, in a serious vein. I mean, were you doing your fan cams on Saturday?
Well,
Chelsea
no,
Fans Channel?
we had a bit of a problemo.
Did you?
And then after I got a couple done, but, to be honest, the atmosphere at the bridge, it was really... People were walking out. They weren't even... It wasn't that they were quiet. Everyone was just...
Shell-shocked.
Everyone was angry, but not in if you've lost against Spurs or something like that. It was angry as in how not being a League One team.
I was actually, I said on funnily enough on LBC, and I do the interview with them pretty much every week after the match, and so they know who I am. Ian knows what I'm like, and I'm, as we all know, I'm quite gobby or loquacious if you prefer.
Being noticed.
Loquacious, I prefer.
Vociferous.
And I said, Ian, I'm actually speechless tonight. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say about that.
I want to say a few things about Jose later, but I'm sure we'll get to that anyway.
We'll do about that. Now, I was going to ask you, Smart, Cahill. You see, I'm kind of, that's it. Rory coated Gary Cahill off massively on one of his little videos for the Chelsea Fans Channel the other week. And I find it really painful. I really like Gary Cahill. I desperately want Gary Cahill to be the heir apparent to JT. I've seen Gary Cahill perform brilliantly. I will never forget his performance in the Champions League where he was a monster.
That goal against Spurs was amazing.
There is so much to want to like about Gary Cahill to see him. But I'm beginning to think, you know what? He might just not be good enough.
Do you know? It's not. Gary Cahill sometimes makes some errors. That it's not like he has a series of bad games or he's just okay, he makes some errors that others like Terry or Ashley Cole would not have made. And I just think
you can only do one of those as a defender.
Yeah, you can't do too many of them, and then otherwise.
JT makes mistakes, but he's almost untouchable in terms of criticism.
He makes very few mistakes.
Very few mistakes. I know, very few. But I think Cahill needs to come at the firing line for a couple of games. You don't become a bad player overnight.
He's had a shocking season, to be fair, hasn't he?
He has.
He got whacked on the head in 2 successive games.
And I
don't think he's been the same since.
I agree with you.
Is that a confidence thing?
Yeah.
I mean, unlike Torres, he got whacked on the head and suddenly had a blinder.
Vastly improved, yeah.
Well, it's harder to be Pele.
Well, what did he say?
They told him he was Pele when he woke up.
No, you know New Year's Day, just before the game, we were all saying behind, no, they're never going to get through Ivanovic and Cahill. They were the two they've been really good, and I just think since New Year's Day, he hasn't been the same. That's my opinion, because before that I couldn't have. That there was some great performances that he put in. So whatever's happened since then, I don't know. And obviously, when you're getting, he will know about the criticism of all they do. So
just sorry, Charlie, you were going to say.
I don't think he's heir apparent to John Terry.
Well, not
long
anymore.
term.
I don't think
long
he's
time going forward. I'm a fan of his, and I appreciate what he's done for the club, and I don't want him to leave at all. I think what he's great at is, like on the run to Munich, or even, the back end of last season where we were playing two banks of full, part of the bus, whatever you want to call it. He's great in a defensive team. When you're, 95% of games this season, at least for now, Chelsea are looking to be the team with the initiative. He's not the ideal player to have when you're playing that expansively.
He can't bring the ball out
because he gets caught. I think
his positioning's a bit suspect.
Overall, I was going to be really harsh. I'd say he's a good Premier League defender, a very good Premier League defender. But Chelsea are a continental side who are looking to be one of the top 4 or 5 in Europe. I don't think that he's up to the level of the rest of the team. And I think, well, not even up to the level of the rest of the team. I think most positions we've got someone that you could categorically say, he's one of the best in Europe in that position. You know what? And I don't think Gary Cahill is.
Here we go. I mean, the reality of it is, Charlie, is that when you've got a manager like Jose Mourinho in charge, he won't settle for second best. So if he thinks Gary's not up to it, he'll be gone and somebody will come in.
But he has played him.
That Mourinho dropped Cahill and put Zuma in for one of the Premiership games.
He doesn't think Zuma's ready, though, does he?
No, but
as he showed on Saturday.
If he's got JT next to him.
All right, chaps, let's move it on a second. Why? What went wrong? Was it complacency? Was it that we were not good enough on the day? I mean, was it arrogance, no fight, desire? What was it?
It was all of the.
I'm just thinking back.
Hold on. One of you.
I'm just thinking back. There's a precedent here to making wholesale changes to the team, and that was Shrewsbury away when he put out a massively changed team, didn't he? And that struggled.
But that was a different kettle of fish. They weren't a bad team. I thought tactically Shrewsbury set up really, really well. They played decent football. That pitch was horrible. It was freezing, rainy, and horrible. It was a really hot. That was a classic, big club banana skin waiting to happen. Yeah. But I thought that actually Aki played very well that night, and I thought Drogba got us out of the poo.
So what did Aki play?
Well, that's a very good question.
I think bring Fabregas on to me was a real bizarre decision when you had Ake on the bench. Obviously, Mikel had to go off because he was injured. Yeah. I think actually those three you picked out, Cahill, obviously we talked about, Salah and Mikel, I thought they both had appalling games. But to pick those three out when two of those went off when Chelsea were winning the game is odd.
It is.
But, I mean,
that was I rolled, Charlie.
No, you're a bit of an odd man.
I am.
Sorry. I think bringing Fabregas on, it wasn't a Fabregas game. It was a kick and rush game. Bradford would have been really physical. It was a kick and rush game. And, because of the lack of anyone's midfield, it was almost like a basketball game. That's why Bradford managed to score 4 goals. Bringing Fabregas on to sit deep and kind of scheme when he had space. He didn't have any space, didn't have any time. I thought bringing him on instead of Ake was bizarre.
Do you know what, Charlie? I mean, I actually thought it was desperate, the substitutions. I mean, Ken Barlow. I have no idea where that came from. I've never even watched Corrie.
Because Deirdre died.
Ken Barkway, my great pal on Twitter, he made another good point. I mean, he said, and I think he sits in the family section, so he's quite near to the dugout. And he said normally when Chelsea makes substitutions, Jose and Steve Holland are talking about it, making notes, and they're preparing them. He said that on Saturday they just threw them on. It was just like boom, off they went. And then to end up with a formation where Zuma's like playing in centre forward, you kind of know. I know Jose's just a bit of a genius tactically, and I know he likes to take a bit of a risk, but That's a bit mental. Sorry.
Well,
especially when Zuma missed a sitter.
It is. You know, I thought when they come on, I thought finally someone's going to. But it was obviously beyond the wreckage before that even if he did try and bring them on, then it's too little, too late, to be honest. But I will say this and one thing, and this is my last word on it: when you start playing.
Promise?
Yes, when you start the game playing Mikel, we do not win, and I don't care what anybody says.
No,
he is not.
You can't say that.
He's not the start. No, listen. I love it when he comes on because I think he's one of the only people that say we're playing against Barcelona and we win. He wants to keep the game as it is. Great, bring him on. Jose obviously loves him to keep him in the team. Jose would just get rid of him if he thought he was rubbish. But when we start with him. And I just don't. It doesn't end well.
Do you know what?
I never had you down as one of Mikel's nonsense.
To be really honest, Sophie,
I love him. I just don't want him to
Felipe loves
start.
Mikel. He's on my side here. But I mean, every time. Oh no! Shut up. The thing is, it's far too easy to sit there and blame Mikel.
I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that's what happens.
A lot of people do, Sophie. A lot of people do. It's far too simple to sit there and blame Mikel, one player. I think actually the reality is you have to look at the whole team.
I'm not. I said it was awful.
You have to look at the whole. Hang on.
But what did I say before?
Hang on.
Go on then.
My turn.
Go on then.
You have to look at the whole team on Saturday, and that was a dreadful team performance.
Right. And what did I say at the start?
You said that, I expect.
I said before I even went to the midfield and the strikers, I said the defending was absolutely horrendous.
But I mean, you
before I even get to that,
you defend from the front, and we didn't do that, and the midfield were absolutely.
Well, I mean, we're all just in shock.
It was
rubbish.
a bad team.
There was no organisation front to back.
Very quickly, Charlie touched on this a minute ago, and
Mm.
I want to spend the last 3 minutes talking about this. And I think it's interesting, actually. I mean, I wrote this before Jose came out with these comments, and I said, now we know why Jose doesn't like to rotate. And he actually said in an interview, now you know why I don't rotate. And I mean, what I'm really saying about this is that it looks like we might have an issue with squad depth. How much of a problem is this, Charlie? Are we worried about this going forward?
Yeah, I am certainly.
Okay, well, expand.
I don't think the squad's deep enough. I mean, actually, we're already out of. I was going to say, at the end of the season, hopefully we'll be in all the competitions. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. I honestly think it's one of the best teams. One of the best starting 11s that we've ever had under the Abramovich era, or ever, really. I honestly think it's one of the worst squad. It's one of the worst kind of...
Weakest squads.
It's one of the weakest squads that we've had in the Abramovich era. Yeah, I do.
No, do you know what? I just think... Do you know what I think?
I actually answered...
He was a decent player.
I actually answered tweets on this, and I mentioned Jeremy. I mentioned people like Jeremy and Belletti and Kalou.
You can never, ever...
It was Joe Tweed who asked, this is one of the worst squad depths. And I answered saying... Yes, it is. You always had players. I mean, Jeremy did a good job for Chelsea.
Yeah, but you can't ever say anything bad about Jeremy because Jeremy. If Damien Duff don't, we'll bring in Jeremy.
Well, precisely.
God.
But
What?
I'm not. I don't think he trusts anyone. I don't think he's got a Jeremy to come in and do a job that's going to play 10 games a year. I don't think he's got even.
I think Ramirez is all right.
I like Ramirez, and
apart from that,
actually, funny enough, when he scored his second goal, I was like, sorry, when he scored the second goal, that was a vintage Ramirez where he tackled it, ran straight through 1-2, and then finished. It was a great goal. Unfortunately, like you say, he didn't offer any sort of protection, and he was part of the problem in terms of organisation through the whole side.
I don't think that Ramirez is a defensive midfielder.
No.
And I never understand why he ends up playing.
I think.
I can only agree with Charlie up to a point there, because I think if you take any, that's fine. If you take any 2 or 3 of those players and put them into Jose's regular starting 11, and they can fit in and they won't disrupt it at all. But if you put 9 of them in,
that's a good point.
Too many changes.
They haven't played as a team. They're not a team. They sit on the bench.
I think, to be honest, do you remember we were talking about the naughty step a couple of weeks ago?
Why were you putting me on it?
No, I'm not putting you on it. No, I'm not putting Chidge on the naughty step. No.
Because I'm naughty.
I think, and I reckon, I sensed this from Jose Mourinho's post-match interview. He said, everyone says, I don't give them a chance, I don't give them a chance, so I put them on, and this is what happens, and that is what happens. And unfortunately, I don't think it's up to Jose to now, because it's too late. We can't change our whole B team now.
We've got to go to a break. We can carry this on straight afterwards. We shall see you in about a nanosecond, and we'll be talking more Bradford versus Chelsea versus Bradford, even whatever.